Well, once again, welcome to our home groups training. Today we're going to talk about what do you do if you live in Hilo, or do you have to have a home group only here in Hilo? Like, what if you live somewhere else? So what I want to talk about today is church locations. Whenever we think about the word church, sometimes we think the church building and we go to church. But what we're doing with home groups is we're reminding us all who the church is, not where the church is. Because who the church is so much more important than where the church is. So if you're trying to answer the question, do I need to live in Hilo to host a home group? No, you don't. Why? Because who you are as the church determines where the church is. The Bible puts it this way in Acts chapter 17, verses 26 through 28. It says, "From one man he made all the nations, that they should inhabit the whole earth. And he marked out their appointed times in history and the boundaries of their lands. God did this so that they would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from any one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being." So God appointed us to be in a certain point of history and to live in a certain location. So these three things will help us to understand that we don't have to live here in Hilo to have a home group. You can have a home group around the world, which that's what the Bible tells us, that they should inhabit the whole earth. That's us as the church. So the first thing is we need to remember that we are in a specific point of time in history as individuals, not just as a world and globally, but as an individual person as the body of Christ. God appointed a specific time in history. We could have been born in the 1800s, 1300s. We could have been born before Jesus. We could have been born during the time of Jesus. But for whatever reason God has in his sovereignty, he had us born in this specific time in history. With our personality, with our character traits, how we think, how we're wired up, so that in this specific time in history, we would be able to reach out to people so that they would seek him and hopefully they too would reach out to him and find him. So that's the first thing, that we are in a specific point of time in history. The second thing is that he placed us exactly where we should live. Exactly, down to the room you're living in and the specific address that you have wherever you may be. God knows what to do, where to place us so that we could affect the people around us. He did that for a very specific reason. And once again, he's going to put us in places where there are going to be people who need to find him. That's why when we have a difficult time with people that don't know Jesus, the reason why we have that difficulty is for God to show us that that person needs to find him, and he's going to use you to witness to them. So even though we may have a difficult time with people that don't know Jesus or non-believers, we have to have a different set of eyes and a different perspective to remember that God placed us there to reach them. Not to see their flaws and then come against them or them be our enemies. But as he said, you need to love your enemies. Why? Because he placed us there so that they would see us and hopefully see our representation of who the Lord is, and then they would be able to call upon him because they have a connection with us who have a connection with God. Which brings us to the last thing, and that's that God uses my location as a beacon of hope. Now, if you're ever in a place where there are tall buildings, you're going to see a light on the top of the buildings, especially when you go to a city that has skyscrapers and tall buildings. And the reason for that is so that the airplanes and any aircraft would be able to see that there is a building there so that they can avoid those areas. Well, that beacon is a warning, but that beacon also allows them to see what's there, or that there's a potential building there. So the aircraft doesn't need to see the building. The aircraft needs to see the light. In the same way, a ship that's coming to shore, when they see the lighthouse, knows that they're close to land. So now they know where the reef will be or their location so that they know how to navigate through the dark waters. or the dark surroundings. So that lighthouse lets them know where they are and where to go. Also, the light in our home. We use the light so that we can see where we need to go. And that's who God has called us to be. He says in Matthew chapter 5, verses 14 through 16, "You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." So, wherever you are, shine your light, because people will see you and hopefully find God. God bless. Have a wonderful day.